Hi friends, this is Caly joining you today with a wedding card. Super simple and elegant, and I think anyone can create a card like this. I'm using a new stamp set called Do What It Cakes from Simon Says Stamp's latest release, and it's a really pretty set and it can be fun as well. You can turn it into a birthday cake, stamp confetti on it, ribbons, strings, a bow, but I had to color those flowers, so I'm going to turn my card into a wedding card today. So I've stamped the images that I want to use, and I love that I can stamp the tiers of the cake separately. I want to be able to add dimension and maybe even stack my cake pieces a little bit higher, which I'll show you later on. I'm coloring my cake tiers a very soft and muted pink. I'm using 4 colors, and for a full list of the colors, be sure to check out the coordinating blog post for this video. Moving on to the stand, we can't have a wedding without some gold or shiny accents, so I am coloring my stand to make it look gold. Next, for the flowers, this is a little bit harder to color in my opinion because the petals are all kind of swirly. So I am adding colors where it kind of divots into the last section of the petal to create a little bit of shading and shadow. And then I'll go over it with a medium shade, making sure to leave some white for a third and final light color so that there's lots of dimension to the flowers. Then for the foliage, I wanted to use 2 shades of green. So I'm making the leaves a little bit darker and then those little sprigs a little bit of a brighter green just to give it a bit more interest and more color. Once I'm done coloring, I'm going to die cut all of my pieces and make sure that everything assembles as I would want it to look. I'm not going to adhere anything down yet, I just wanted to get a rough idea of what it's going to look like. Next, I'm going to work on a background. I've got the Blossom Field embossing folder here. When I think of weddings, I think of lace, and so I wanted to choose something with lots of texture for a background to make it soft and dainty. So I've got a piece of fog cardstock here and my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. I have the platform, no cutting board, and a metal shim. Depending on how tight your rollers are, you may need a second shim, and if you don't have a metal shim, paper works as well as shims. I've used 3 pieces of 110-pound cardstock before, and it works great. So I've got this pretty background. It's just for texture. I'm not going to add any color to it. I just want it super simple. Now I'm going to give it a quick trim. I want it to mat my card base, but also give the sides a little haircut to make it look nice and straight once it comes out of the embossing folder. I'm going to go ahead and construct my cake now. Like I mentioned earlier, I wanted some dimension, so I'm going to add some foam tape to these tiers. On that first tier, I added it directly to the bottom of the cake tier that was already there. And for this top tier, I'm just going to raise it up a little bit because those flowers are going to take up some space, and I didn't want my cake to look short and stumpy. So I raised it up a little bit, and having a separate piece for that cake tier really allows you to do that. I'm going to adhere those flowers using the dot tape runner from Simon Says Stamp, and then I'll set that aside and work on a sentiment. There's a small circle solid stamp from the stamp set, and I wanted to create a medallion. So what I'm doing is using some muted yellows, and I'm going to stamp the first color with a lighter yellow. This is Lemon Chiffon. And then I have Catkin, a second darker yellow that I'm going to use and dab some color on around the edges of the circle only, using a finger dauber to dab that color on. So in a way, kind of like how I was coloring the stand to create a lot of shine, that's what I was trying to achieve with that inking. I repeated that 3 times to get the darkness for that contrast, and then I'll put it back in my MISTI to stamp the sentiment on it. I am using a craft knife now. I'm just going to create 2 slits on the sides. That way I can feed some twine through these slits and make it a little bit more interesting. I've got 3 strands of some twine here, and I'm just going to feed it through the front of my little medallion and then feed it through the back so that I have twine coming out the sides. Now we have this fun sentiment on some twine, and I can just adjust the strings to make sure there's enough on either side to wrap around this card panel. The sentiment is a little bit more involved with twine coming out of it, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that cake and cake stand down first to make sure that the position is where I want it before I adhere and commit to the placement of this medallion and that twine coming out of it. So I've used dot tape runner and I've adhered the cake down. I'm going to adhere foam tape to the back of this medallion, and that'll keep the twine in place and keep it from shifting. And then I'll add some more dot runner on the back where the twine is going to go. And I'll wrap it around where I want the placement to be before I press down on the back and adhere it in position. Now I'm going to add dot tape runner to the entire back panel, and I'm just going to trim off the excess twine, and so I can adhere it to a card base. Last but not least, I'm going to add some jewels to my card. I'm using the Studio Katia iridescent clear crystals. I love iridescent jewels or sequins of any kind. It adds a bit of interest to your card but doesn't take away from the images that are there. And that finishes my wedding card for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I appreciate you stopping by. I'll be listing 2 more videos for you to watch if you are interested in seeing more. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day. Bye, everyone.